Today on History in Lowell, we'll be talking about Lowell's 200 and America's 250 years as we discuss Frederick Douglass, his legacy, and his speech, What to a Slave is the 4th of July. Hello, welcome to History in Lowell. I'm Maritza Grooms. I'm joined by my personal professor, Bob Forrant. How you doing, Bob?
I'm well. How about you?
I'm doing all right. And today we're talking about Frederick Douglass, and he has great significance, of course, for the nation, but he does have some significance for us Lowellians as
for
well.
sure.
And let's get right into it. Let's talk about his life. Let's talk about what's gone on with him. Let's talk about how he even got to this point of being such a powerful historical figure.
Yeah, I mean, Douglass is, I feel, as a teacher of history, his life is an essential story that nobody that goes through public school systems should do without. There should be a special place in every high school history curriculum to take a look at his life. He's born in 1818. He's born in Maryland on a plantation. He's enslaved from birth. At age 7, he separated from his mom and moved to a different plantation. He, of course, suffers everything connected with the institution of slavery, including laws in Maryland and other southern states against learning how to read. Somebody could be put to death if they were caught teaching an enslaved person how to read, because people understood the relationship between knowledge and power.
Yep.
Nonetheless, Douglass at age 10 is beginning to teach himself how to read. He is watching people at church, looking at hymn books, psalm books, and things like that, and he begins to develop that ability to the point that by age 14, 15, he's actually teaching reading to other people.
That's incredible.
Other enslaved people.
Wow.
And intrinsically, he understands the power of words, which is obviously going to play out to a great degree later in his life.
Wow, and it's dangerous to do this, especially as an enslaved person. As you said, knowledge is power, and we've seen it across history, even to this day. So many people being persecuted just for having information, and intellectuals are often the first to be targeted in regimes of fascism. But we won't go there right now. We'll focus on.
Again, he understands that. He escapes the South once and is caught and returned, and then in 1838, he's about 17, 18 years old at that point. He escapes again. He hides on a train, leaving the South for New York City, and he basically hides on the train for nearly 24 hours and ends up in New York City. And that's the end of his enslavement. It takes a few years. He's sort of knocking around. He writes a lot about this in his autobiography. And then in the early 1840s, he starts becoming a prominent critic of slavery and a spokesperson for the abolitionist movement. He and William Lloyd Garrison, one of the leading abolitionists in the country at the time, born in Newburyport, Mass., the two of them sort of were on the lecture circuit together for a while. And it's interesting because Douglass, people know he was enslaved, and he talks about it and writes about it. In theory, he could be picked up.
Right.
He's still considered the property of the plantation owners in Maryland who he escaped from. And yet again, he's nearly killed in Indiana in the 1840s. He's mobbed, his wrist is broken, but he gets away.
Wow.
And it's a pretty traumatic event. He then, in the middle 1840s, goes on a European tour talking about slavery in America and trying to enlist the support of other countries. And so he spends considerable time in Ireland and England and a few other places in Europe for 2 years before he comes back. He lives in Massachusetts. He lives in Lynn for quite a while. He also lives in New Bedford. We know he comes to Lowell on at least 3 occasions where we found write-ups in local newspapers. And each time he comes, he's accompanied by somebody who has escaped. And he's sort of guiding them around as they're telling their story, because the idea is that the more people learn about the harshness of the institution, the more people will be galvanized to oppose slavery. And so he's moving around, and will come to Lowell. Comes to Lowell for a couple of slavery conventions as well, anti-slavery conventions.
Right,
of
and
course.
we know that his paper was also sold.
Yep, he has a paper. Again, the irony, right? I mean, it's real, the power of words, right? 1818, illegal to learn how to read, teaches himself how to read, and you know, at a point in the 1840s, starts editing and writing for his own newspaper called the North Star. So again, it's like, it's just this is why I started out by saying, right, and I know you agree, it should be, this whole thing should be taught.
The courage that he had, not only to escape his own circumstances, but to also empower other people around him who were also disenfranchised. He didn't just do it for enslaved folks, he did it for a lot of folks. And the power of his words did create change. And we'll talk more about that and the significance of the speech that he gave.
Yeah, I mean, again, there's no question. And in Lowell, we know, again, from, well, the documentary that we worked on together, but in other research people have done as well, that the North Star is sold in the barbershops and the hair salons of fugitives who have ended up living in Lowell, Nathaniel Booth being one of the people that we know the most about. But they sold Garrison's newspaper, The Liberator, and also the North Star. And so again, imagine if you're a fugitive yourself and you end up in Lowell and all of a sudden you hear Frederick Douglass is coming to town. I can't imagine what that, you know, that has to be, for anybody that thinks about somebody they're dying to see these days, right? Either performing or speaking or whatever it might be. I mean, he's like a rock star of this time period for people that are pushing the idea of ending the institution of slavery. And he's coming to Lowell, and I'm selling his newspaper in my barbershop. I hope he stops by for a trim. I mean, it has to be like a really interesting dynamic, right? Which obviously we can never completely capture, but I think we both can imagine what that would have been like.
Oh my goodness, I can feel even the stern, like the idea of it. He's a great American hero. This is a story of a great American hero. And to be alive during that time, to be selling his newspaper or even reading it and maybe see him walk down the street.
Yeah, you look out of the corner of your eye and here he comes. He's a very noticeable person.
Yes.
There are so many daguerreotypes and eventually other photographs of him. He lives until 1895.
Wow.
So he lives for obviously a huge chunk of the 19th century. So the whole struggle to end the institution of slavery, then the whole struggle for civil rights, he's embedded in that, in the entirety of that conversation.
Wow.
You know, from, you know, obviously 18, when he's born he's not, but by 10 or 11 he's definitely aware and reading about and learning about, right? And then again, he lives until 1895. So that's like a really rich, full life for him. The other thing that again makes understanding who he is important is he's involved in other issues of the day.
Exactly.
So he's opposed to the institution of slavery and will speak out, but he's also very much in favor of votes for women. And he sees the connections between these issues. You can't struggle and fight for freedom for one collection of people, one group of people, without also understanding these other power dynamics and how they play out. And he will even go so far, which is really fascinating, when he goes to anti-slavery conventions, a lot of them are segregated by gender. And women sit in the balcony and men sit on the ground floor of auditoriums and halls wherever these events take place. So when he goes in and he sees that, he'll sit in the balcony. He will not sit on the floor with the white guys. He'll sit in the balcony with women.
I really love that. Nobody's free until we're all free.
Yeah, and it's intrinsic, right? I mean, it's who he is. And he just very simply sees it. Later, after the Civil War, after the end of the war and the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments, he then focuses on immigration, which is a whole other thing that we can do at some point. So I don't want to like sidetrack us for now, but he is definitely speaking out against particularly the really brutally harsh treatment of Chinese immigrants in America. 1867, he makes a really famous speech about that. He uses the newspaper to write about it. He uses his platform as a speaker when when he'll go around talking about segregation and whatnot, he'll say, look, same thing, like this is what you're doing, this is evil.
Wow. And that just goes to show the importance of when you have a platform, using it to speak out for everybody and not just yourself. And he did that, and he made significant waves. And one of the big waves that he made that a lot of us know him for, and I think, I don't want to say that we started the trend of reading this speech every year, but I mean, I feel like we started it locally.
We'll take it in.
But, yeah. But this speech, What to a Slave, is the 4th of July. I know you and I have read it. We've attended readings in Lowell. We've now probably started readings at other places. I know you're doing one with a local school. I'm doing one with my work. It still carries significance even to this day.
For sure.
But it wasn't given on the 4th of July.
Right.
When was it given, Bob?
So it's given on the 5th of July, 1852, and it's intentional. It's not like they forgot the 4th was the 4th. It's given on the 5th because a lot of celebrations in the African communities and in black communities around the country where people were free to be able to have a gathering and a meeting and think and talk, then the decision was, again, so what? It's the 4th of July. That doesn't have the same meaning and resonance because of the institution of slavery. So we'll always do something on the 5th. So from the 1840s forward, there were things on the 5th of July. There were also things on Emancipation Day when Britain basically outlaws slavery in its colonies, particularly Jamaica and other places in the Caribbean. And so sometimes people will celebrate that day. Theodore Edson, the minister of St. Anne's Church, is famous for having that be a celebration day in his church.
Oh, wow.
British Emancipation Day, he calls it. So, yeah, so Douglass that's very intentional. And the thing is that what's happened in the country, which propels him to think about and then write the speech, is as the 1840s, as the decade winds down, there's a fairly significant uptick in abolitionist activity in the country. There are grand debates about whether the institution should be allowed to spread into new territories, and then in those states, if they do petition and become states. And there's this fierce battle in Congress about what to do. And so a compromise deal is made, as often happens in American politics. And one of the things that comes out of it is the Fugitive Slave Law, which is signed into law in 1850. And so the speech comes 2 years, roughly a year and a half or so, after that law goes into effect. The Fugitive Slave Law is significant in the development of the politics which end up in the Civil War, because the Fugitive Slave Law says that anybody knowingly harboring an escaped enslaved person is guilty of a federal crime. You are, with the signing of this law, if you know Nathaniel Booth, who we referenced earlier, a barber in Lowell with a shop and whatever, you know who that person is. You have to turn them in to the federal government, and somebody will come and get them. And if you don't do that, if you knowingly harbor that person, you can go to jail or be fined a significant amount of money. So it now, in a dramatic way, sort of forces the general public, okay, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Right? I remember Gordon Hom, one of our frequent guests, what you going to do?
What you gonna do?
Right? is really great story. But it's sort of like that's basically that, right? What you going to do? Fish or cut bait, as my parents would say when I had to make a decision. What are you going to do?
Exactly.
Go. What are you going to do? And so people start being rounded up. And quickly, 1850, 1852 or so, about 150 people are taken away. It doesn't seem like a lot maybe in our mind when we think about it now, but the drama of it,
Yeah.
the federal government is involved, troops are involved. They basically take people off the street, put them in jail, and then march them from a jail to a port,
Oh my gosh.
and then put them on a ship and return them, and people know what they're being returned to. And so Douglass basically is working, crafting this speech, and he's invited to give it on July 5. He's living now in Rochester at a place called Corinthian Hall, which is this very ornate, elaborate lecture hall, concert facility in downtown Rochester. And he's invited by the Rochester Women's Anti-Slavery Society to address them on the 5th of July, 1852. And believe it or not, I found the handwritten invitation.
Wow.
And like, I almost wept. It was like, oh my God, like, obviously it's not in my hands, it's on my screen. But it's like, oh my goodness, like I'm this next to that history. And Douglass says in a postscript to the speech, and it being reprinted and published, and thousands of copies of it are sold in print version, that he worked harder on this than anything else he ever wrote. That it was so important that he get this right in 1852.
Wow. Wow. And, you know, when I think about just writing anything is already a lot, but somebody who had to teach themselves how to read, who understood the significance of the moment of that time, who understood what was happening, and to put their all into such a speech, it's so powerful. And I think that in this moment, we should take a second and read a bit of this speech for our audience at home. And so right now, each of us will stand and we will read some of what to a slave is the 4th of July. Okay. Fellow citizens, pardon me, allow me to ask, why am I called upon to speak here today? What have I or those I represent to do with your national independence? Are the great principles of political freedom and of natural justice embodied in that Declaration of Independence extended to us? And am I, therefore, called upon to bring our humble offering to the national altar and to confess the benefits and express devout gratitude for the blessings resulting from your independence to us? Would to God, both for our sakes, for your sakes and ours, that an affirmative answer could be truthfully returned to these questions. Then would my task be light and my burden easy and delightful. But such is not the state of the case. I say it with a sad sense of the disparity between us. I am not included within the pale of this glorious anniversary. Your high independence only reveals the immeasurable distance between us. The blessings in which you this day rejoice are not enjoyed in common. The rich inheritance of justice, liberty, prosperity, and independence bequeathed by your fathers is shared by you, not by me. The sunlight that brought life and healing to you has brought stripes and death to me. This 4th of July is yours, not mine. You may rejoice, I must mourn. To drag a man in fetters into the grand illuminated temple of liberty and call upon him to join you in joyous anthems were inhuman mockery and sacrilegious irony. Do you mean, citizens, to mock me by asking me to speak today? Fellow citizens, above your national tumultuous joy, I hear the mournful wail of millions whose chains, heavy and grievous yesterday, are today rendered more intolerable by the jubilee shouts that reach them. My subject, then, fellow citizens, is American slavery. I shall see this day from the slave's point of view. Standing here, identified with the American bondman, making his wrongs mine, I do not hesitate to declare with all my soul that the character and conduct of this nation never looked blacker to me than on this 4th of July. Whether we turn to the declarations of the past or to the professions of the present, the conduct of the nation seems equally hideous and revolting. America is false to the past, false to the present, and solemnly binds herself to be false to the future.
In glaring violation of justice, in shameless disregard of the forms of administering law, in cunning arrangement to entrap the defenseless, and in diabolical intent, this fugitive slave law stands alone in the annals of tyrannical legislation. Americans, your Republican politics, not less than your Republican religion, are flagrantly inconsistent. You boast of your love of liberty, your superior civilization, and your pure Christianity, while the whole political power of the nation is solemnly pledged to support and perpetuate the enslavement of 3 million of your countrymen. You hurl your anathemas at the crowned head tyrants of Russia and Austria and pride yourself on your democratic institutions, while you yourselves consent to be mere tools and bodyguards of the tyrants of Virginia and the Carolinas. You invite to your shores fugitives of oppression from abroad, honor them with banquets, greet them with ovations, cheer them, toast them, salute them, protect them, and pour out your money to them like water. But the fugitives from your own land you advertise, hunt, arrest, shoot, and kill. You discourse eloquently on the dignity of labor, yet you sustain a system which in its very essence casts a stigma upon labor. You can bare your bosom to the storm of British artillery to throw off a 3-penny tax on tea, and yet wring the last hard-earned farthing from the grasp of black laborers in your country. You profess to believe that of one blood God made all nations of men to dwell on the face of the earth, and hath commanded all men everywhere to love one another. Let you notoriously hate and glory in the hatred all men whose skins are not colored like your own. You declare before the world, and are understood by the world to declare, that you, quote, hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal and are endowed by the Creator with certain inalienable rights, and that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And yet you hold security in a bondage which, according to your own Thomas Jefferson, quote, is worse than ages of that which your fathers rose in rebellion to oppose, a 7th part of the inhabitants of your country. Fellow citizens, I will not enlarge further on your national inconsistencies. The existence of slavery in this country brands your republicanism as a sham, your humanity as a base pretense, and your Christianity as a lie. It destroys your moral power abroad. It corrupts your politicians at home. It saps the foundation of religion. It makes your name a hissing. 10 of 10, and by a byword of a mocking earth. Be warned, a horrible reptile is coiled up in your nation's bosom. The venomous creature is nursing at the tender breast of your youthful republic. For the love of God, tear away and fling from your hideous monster, and let the weight of 20 millions crush and destroy it forever.
Every time we read this, it stirs something in me, and it makes me think about where we are today as a nation and the strides we've made, but how far we still have to go for us to be free, for all of us to be free.
Yeah, I mean, even in the last, I think about connecting to it, getting ready to do this thing next week in Lowell, and so the sort of turning back the clock on voting rights is a really good example of this, of sort of like backtracking on theoretically something settled with, you know, the 14th and 15th Amendments, civil and voting rights, and with various court cases subsequent to that in the 20th century, and now we're going backwards, and we're we're chipping away at, and sometimes not even chipping, but sledgehammering away. And we're having the same conversation as well with birthright citizenship.
Yep.
And amendments again at the end of the Civil War that basically had to deal with the fact that, as Douglass is saying in the speech, we're here but we're not. We're not citizens. We're not participatory in anything that governs us as human beings. And the amendments to the Constitution, the 14th, basically gives people citizenship because you have 7 million people, maybe 8 million at the end of the Civil War that were property and are not do not have a birth certificate, are not citizens in the same way. And so now basically we have the Supreme Court probably in the next few weeks is going to make a decision because the President of the United States signed an executive order to end birthright citizenship. Now he can't arbitrarily basically end an amendment to the Constitution. That takes another amendment, but he might have been able, I don't think he has, but he might have been able to persuade the court to chip away at some aspect of birthright citizenship, which would again be sort of taking us back to 1865 again, in the same way that the courts have decidedly ruled lately against voting rights. So who knows?
So who knows? And not only that, but even just the fugitive aspect. People who are born here, who are having to fight for their lives, fight for their right to be here. People who are coming here because they're fleeing something terrible and they should have been protected. Those people I think about, and the way that just protections for people, civil rights, all of the people who fought for, died for civil rights to be here with us, this legacy that Frederick Douglass left us, and I still find myself asking the same questions that he's asking in this speech that impact all of us today. I'm like getting emotional about it because here we are, 250 years celebrating America, 200 years of Lowell, and we're still having to ask ourselves, are we truly free?
Yeah, I mean, that's the challenge he's laying down, and the parts that we read are really, it's him saying, hey, again, this is who you say you are. For people watching, if you want to learn more about Douglass, you can actually go to the source, because Douglass wrote 3 autobiographies, not one. He wrote them at different points in his life. So he wrote the first one in 1845. Then in 1855, he added to it of like what had happened in the 10 years, right? And then in 1881, he wrote another one called The Life and Times of Frederick Douglass. And that one really sort of covers the full sort of spectrum of him escaping, living in Massachusetts, embarking on this lifelong work for human rights, and sort of the power of that is that it's a way you can also read about the 19th century, because he locates himself as he's writing it and what's going on in the world around him. So that like if you want to, the 1845 one is short because he's only lived a little while then, right? So if you want to read a little thing, read that one. If you want to read the big one, then I would say go after The Life and Times of Frederick Douglass, which is available and in print and easy to find at any good bookstore.
Yeah, independent bookstores, not billionaires.
Not billionaire bookstores, right?
Well, Bob, thank you for bringing this forward. And, as I sit here and wrestle with my own feelings about this, I hope that all of you at home are thinking about what it means to be truly free and really hold that peace that none of us are free until we all are free. This has been History in Lowell. Thank you for watching.